you, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of the 700 Club. If you can believe it, Terry, 39, count them, 39 new pornography sites on the internet every single day.
That's an unbelievable number,
every
isn't it?
day. And the stuff that's being shown is appalling.
Well, and frighteningly, our children have access to a lot of it. Well, we are going to take a look today also, Pat, at some of the people. It's been so difficult on TV to watch the tragedy that's unfolding in the Midwest with the flooding, but we're going to take a look at some of the victims of those killer floods that have been sweeping the Midwest today.
And that's a tragedy, but speaking of another tragedy, there's horror that has crept right into our homes and is poisoning the minds of millions of Americans. Adults as well as their children are only a click away from unlimited access to computer porn. Is this what our founding fathers meant by freedom of speech? The Supreme Court is about to decide, and let's go now to the CBN News Desk for this story and the rest of today's headlines.
If your children can sign on to cyberspace, they can access the raunchiest pornography. Bestiality, child sex, violent sex. It's all there for the computer savvy of any age. A new law would make it tougher for children to get such material, but the controversial law is being challenged today at the U.S. Supreme Court. CBN News correspondent Melissa Charbonneau reports.
Today, nearly 1 out of every 4 adults in North America is using the Internet. That's 50 million people, or more than twice as many as just a year and a half ago. But it's children who use the Internet and come across raw pornography online that has many adults concerned, especially when 39 new pornographic sites hit cyberspace every day.
They have access to adult pornography, which is protected speech for adults, but illegal for children in every other form of media, print and broadcast.
This Wednesday, the Supreme Court considers a law that could limit computer porn. The Communications Decency Act would make it a crime to send indecent or patently offensive material to children via cyberspace. But many civil libertarians argue any such move by the court to criminalize online indecency will violate all Americans' First Amendment rights. Some say, why put a restrictive new law on the books when parents can use software already available to block out many pornographic sites? Kathy Cleaver of the Family Research Council says such high-tech solutions don't really solve the problem.
There are online services that explain step-by-step how to get around blocking devices and how to get in blocked sites. So technology alone is never the answer.
Even if the Supreme Court does decide the only way to protect children from high-tech porn is a new law, some civil libertarians say it would be at the expense of the First Amendment. And the justices traditionally consider free speech an untouchable, almost sacred right. Melissa Charbonneau, CBN News, the Supreme Court.
Here's Pat now with a comment on the Internet controversy. No question about this, Pat, it's going to be argued as a free speech issue, right?
Lee, this free speech stuff about this is just purely specious. There's no question that our founding fathers would have been horrified at what's being shown. The commercial pornography was never considered something that was protected by the First Amendment. And this is, as we talk about air pollution, we would shut down a factory that was spewing out noxious fumes. This is much worse. There is on the Internet right now graphic pictures of sex with animals, women having sex with animals. There are graphic pictures of women being tied up in various forms of bondage, all kinds of sadomasochism. We're not talking about just some little risque pictures. We're talking about the worst hardcore pornography in the world, and a government has an absolute right to protect itself from people who are exploiting the base instincts of people. It is commercial, and if you go to look at who's behind most pornography, you'll find it is mob-related. It isn't just a free enterprise. I mean, we're talking about criminal elements who are involved in this using a cloak of the First Amendment.
How do you think the Clinton administration is going to come down on this?
Oh, well, Clinton will probably come out in favor of the bill. He signed it, after all. It was attached to the telecommunications bill as a rider, and that's why it went through so easily. But nevertheless, there's an overwhelming sense in Congress that something has to be done about this. And the Supreme Court had better not stand in the way of the will of the legislature of the nation. On this one, I think this cry of First Amendment is specious nonsense, in my opinion.